Welcome to the shop today. I'm Marshall. Welcome to my channel. I'm here at Lagrange Stereo and Music, and today I have a really beautiful Martin acoustic guitar. It is an SOM 45, which is not an OM 45. It's an SOM 45. Very special guitar. Pretty valuable guitar also. To the owner, of course, it's priceless, but on the retail market, this thing would be somewhere in the probably $8,000 to $10,000 range. Really beautiful guitar, and I'm really lucky and honored to be able to work on it for this customer. He hasn't played it for about 7 or 8 years, so it felt like it was probably time to do a cleanup and a health inspection, check all the specs on the guitar, the setup, polish the frets, clean the fretboard, do all the normal stuff that I do. So I'm going to get my ugly face off of this screen and let you take a look at the instrument. And here it is. The date on this, we're guessing that this guitar was manufactured in about 1977. You'll notice all the beautiful abalone inlays, binding work done on this guitar. They hired Martin, subbed this work out to an artist who did this work, and he'll remain unnamed at this point. I wish I could remember his name, but it's really beautiful work and a beautiful guitar with the old CF Martin name in the headstock. It has the original Grover gold hardware on it, all the original machine or end pins, strap button, and look at this beautiful work they've done on this joint here between the sides. Just a beautiful guitar. What we're going to do today is we're putting this had 13 gauge strings on it, and this calls for light or medium or light strings. 13s are light strings, I suppose, to some people. To me, they're terribly heavy, but I'm a little guy, little fingers. So I'm going to put 11 gauge strings on this. We may do some adjustment to the nut, the string action here at the first fret, meaning the height from the bottom of the string to the top of this fret was, it's up around 30,000ths of an inch. I think the gentleman that owns this guitar wants to have that lowered a little bit, so we're going to make an adjustment to the nut here to make that happen. We're going to polish all the frets. Fret wear on these first few frets is really not too bad. This thing is in really good shape. As you can see, there aren't any real big noticeable huge cracks or anything in the finish. There's one took a little hit, looks like right in here on the guitar. Kind of see maybe a little crack down here. I'm trying to get that in the light so you can see it, but one just tiny little ding down here, and that's it. A little bit of checkering in the finish, but not bad. So just a beautiful guitar. We're going to clean it up and make it play. So hang in there, I'll shoot some video cleaning it. Well, that's all we're going to do really, is clean this thing, do a little bit of adjustment to the nut, and send it home to be played. A couple of details also about the guitar. The 12th fret action, the string action at the 12th fret on the low E string is about 11/64, which is more than twice what I would want on one of my instruments. We have no room on the saddle to remove enough material to get that down to where I would want it, but also this is like a flat picker's delight guitar, so it has tall string action. But what I noticed about it was that chords are somewhat difficult to grab, especially playing bar chords up above about the 3rd fret, and the 1st fret action is awful. It's way too much work. I don't care what kind of guitar you have or how the guitar was built. That's ridiculous. So we will fix that. Hit subscribe and hit the notification bell, and you'll know when I put up a new video, and I appreciate you watching the video. And I'll try and share as much detail as I can about this repair. I know of a couple of the videos that I've done, I've been criticized about not filming enough of the work. I have a difficult time doing that when I'm holding the camera with one hand and trying to work on a $10,000 guitar. So I'll do my best to include as much video of the work that I'm doing on this one. It's not going to be much. You've seen it all before in other videos, but because somebody complained, I'll do my best. So we'll see you in a bit. Back at the shop, and I'm getting ready to clean this fretboard, and I'm going to use Simple Green on this one to clean the wood on the fretboard and knock all the initial guck off of the frets. They're pretty well worn. I did, where is it? I think this fret right here, I took a little Never Dull and kind of hit the end of it to show the owner the potential for these frets. You can see how dreary these ones look in comparison. That may not show up real well on video, but I'm going to clean the fretboard. This is ebony and abalone, of course. You'd have trouble traveling with this guitar if you wanted to take it out of the States because of the abalone on this. So you might reconsider taking this guitar with you anywhere else in the world. But nonetheless, we'll clean this with a toothbrush and some Simple Green, and then I will begin polishing these frets and get that taken care of. In fact, I'll probably polish the frets first and then do the cleaning on this. And the fret polishing will consist of using a fretboard protector, and starting with 600 grit, upgrading to 8, then 1000, then 1500, then 2000 grit, and I'll hit every single fret on this neck with those grits of sandpaper to get these things shining. I am going to check the crowns on these. There's a bit of fret wear here around the 2nd fret, but those are, I mean, they look a whole lot worse than they actually are. I mean, I'm using my fingernail to kind of feel the top of that. Fingers are so sensitive, and I can feel almost nothing on those, so I don't see any need in doing a fret level or even really a crown on these. These frets are still in really good shape. So we'll get started cleaning these things. I'll have some video of that. Well, here we are back with the Martin, and I'm starting out with my 600 grit, and you'll notice I have that written on there. I tear my sandpaper into strips quite often, and many times there isn't a number on the back to identify what grade or grit of sandpaper it is. So we're going to start with 600. We'll hit them once. I'll take a little picture of that, and we'll go over it again with 8 and 1000 and so on until we get up to 2000 grit, and you'll see these things just really come to life and be remarkable again. Here we go. So before I get too far down the road, here is after a hit with some 600 grit, and I stopped up here around the 17th fret to kind of give you an idea of what the frets look like with sandpaper, having scuffed these with 600 grit, and I say scuffed because 2000 grit is going to make them look mirror-like, but here are ones that haven't been hit with sandpaper at all or any polishing. So there's the difference. Oxidation, dirt, dust, crap, stuff that won't just come off by wiping them down. It takes some grit to get them to come back to life. So that is what they look like after a run with just simple old 600 grit sandpaper. And this is before 600, after 600. There you go. We are back with 800 grit. I stopped right here with the 800. This is before 800. The 14th fret, or I'm sorry, the 16th fret. The 15th fret is 800 grit. And as you can see, there's not a big noticeable difference in that step. It's only 200 grit, lighter grit sandpaper, much finer grit. 600 grit, 800 grit. There you go. Keep on moving on. Alright, so here we are after some 1500 grit. I'm not going to show you, I guess, every step of the way. It'd be kind of a waste of film. But as you can see, those things are really becoming alive and very shiny at this point compared to their original state. And I'm about ready to hit them with some 2000 grit. Here's a tool no guitar tech should be without. Go buy one. Or a guitar player. You should probably have one of these. Good to be able to do this on your own. But nonetheless, here we go. 2000 grit. And then we'll clean the wood. Alright, so here we are, sanded with 2000 grit, and I have not cleaned the wood on the fretboard yet, but here's something you should notice, is that, remember I was saying how those notches that you could see here in these frets were really, I couldn't feel them with my fingernail, and now you can see how almost invisible those are. Those are, I mean, literally microns deep. They just look a whole lot worse than they actually are. So here are the frets after polishing them with 2000 grit sandpaper. I don't get the paper wet. I don't wet sand metal on these. Just use it dry. I'm about the only guy I know of that uses 2000 grit. I'm not sure why that is. Why wouldn't you take that extra step to make it that much better and preserve the appearance and look and feel of these frets? I know how good it feels because I do it on my own guitars. So that's my reason behind doing that. Use some good old-fashioned simple green to clean this fretboard and my favorite toothbrush. I'll be back with a picture of that. And we're almost ready for some new strings. Alright, so you've seen this before on my channel, but this is the method of getting the goo off of the fretboard. Take a toothbrush, get in, get right up next to those frets, knock all that guck out of there, get rid of it. If you're going to do something, you might as well do a good job, especially cleaning, because it just makes the end product so much nicer and appreciated. As I move up the neck, you'll notice that there's a bit more goo up in this area, and so the sludge factor becomes a little more detailed. Color of the cleaning agent starts to turn a bit of a brown or grayish color, and that's just all the years of buildup getting knocked off this fretboard. And I do 2 or 3 takes over a fretboard before I call it a day. So, you know, I do a real quick once over like I'm doing here, and then I go back and really dig in to get the edges of the frets nice and clean so there's no debris or guck left on that portion of the fretboard. And when I get done doing this, we'll take a picture. Well, welcome back to the shop. The SOM 45 is all cleaned. Fretboard's oiled, bridge, and gotten that all back into shape and treated. And I've got a string on here, so you can see how nice and shiny and bright and brilliant those frets are. They just look wonderful compared to what they look. Rewind and look at what they look like before I did this. It's pretty incredible, the difference. However, this was a point that I wanted to make about these poems, is that the string action here at the 12th fret is like, wow, that's more than a 1/4 inch of distance between the top of that fret and the bottom of that string. And again, up here at the 1st fret, right there we have about 35 thousandths of an inch or even more. I'm not even going to bother to accurately measure how high that is, but you can see that you have to push down that far for that string to make contact. And that, I mean, you can see the bend that happens up in this area. If you're playing, say, an F bar chord right there, you've got a bend. So that string is already bent out of pitch by that far. So although the guitar sounds great, I can't imagine that that's good for intonation. And I haven't done anything with checking that yet. So I need to talk with the owner on this and double check what he wants me to do about this first fret action. I have no room to drop the saddle down to get the string action out here at the 12th fret. That is what it is. The only way to solve this issue, which I think this is how this guitar was designed. I don't have an original one, and I wasn't there in 1977 when it was built, but this would be what I would call what the world calls a flat picker's delight. High action. For running a pick over these strings. Finger picker's delight would be really super low action, my understanding of that. I just like my guitars set up the way I like to play them, and I don't really care what they were built for. A little bit of work needed. The other issue that I noticed on this guitar is, let's take a look at this A string. You'll notice this E string is wound upside down, meaning the windings are going up towards the top of the machine head, not down below the hole. Look at this A string where the hole protrudes. Literally, it's sitting right on top of the nut that holds the machine head in place. So the shaft is not long enough to wind a string on here in a normal everyday pattern. And you know, I could be wrong, and maybe that's how Martin designed this, so that the string windings are going to have to go uphill, but that I see no other way to do that correctly, and I'm not tying a knot in a string. I refuse to do that. I don't care who tells you to do it. That is wrong. So so that's what's happening with this thing. It's in really good shape. It looks good. Sounds amazing with just one string on it. I'd play it like that. So bust out a slide. I'll be back. Alright, well, the Martin is all strung up and tuned and set up as good as humanly possible without making major changes to this guitar, which I doubt I would ever do unless I owned it. If I owned it, I would reset this neck angle and make it into something I could play leads on without having to earn it that badly. But again, the string action is really high. I mean, it's ridiculously high, and this picture does not do it justice. This thing is really hard to play. Your F note, playing the F note here at the first fret, with the open E being tuned to perfect E pitch, the moment you fret this F note, it is nearly a quarter tone out of pitch, meaning this is almost F sharp. I mean, or it's a flat F sharp, but nonetheless, the note is just, the intonation on this guitar is virtually impossible. The chords are all in tune with each other, but if this guitar was being played with, say, a piano, the moment this guitar hits an F chord, he's out of tune with the piano. So, kind of what's happening with this thing. Right, the Martin, CF Martin, SOM 45 with the beautiful abalone inlays is El Dono. I'm going to let this thing hang overnight and let it acclimate to all the adjustments we made. Done a little bit of work on this nut to get the string action at the first fret down, and you can see that is quite different from where it was. And this guy is going to be chunking and plunking on old country and classic open chords, so we wanted to make that a little easier for him with regard to that. It's his guitar and it should play the way he wants it. He told me to set it up the way I would want mine set up. I am not gonna do a bunch of work on this bridge and saddle unless he approves that, and I'll talk to him in the future about doing that. So fret polish and oiling the fretboard and the bridge, everything is oiled up. New strings, we used Martin 11 to a 52, so a light gauge string. This is down in there, it says use medium gauge or lighter strings only. So they want you to keep light strings on it. I measured the strings that were on it when it came in. They were 13s. So I think I said that earlier in the video, but that's a pretty heavy string in my book. I never put 13s on an acoustic guitar unless somebody absolutely demands that I do that. So, the Martin SOM SOM 45 is ready to go home. We're going to let it hang overnight tonight, adjust to the adjustments that we made in it, and I'll check it in the morning. We've got excellent string action here again, and the thing sounds amazing. Hope to maybe do a little bit of a demo with it at some point in time so you can hear this thing through a cell phone, microphone, whatever.